For those of us that have children, depending on the level of intimacy, I think it's important to show your children the type of relationship you have.
Catch more of this every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m.
A very good evening to you, our esteemed viewer. Thank you so much for choosing Church of Uganda Family TV. This is the Family Hour, empowering families one episode at a time. Adrian Austin Mukalazi is my name to take you through today. It is a Monday. We are discussing education and career. Now, today we are discussing something very, very interesting that you need to know as a parent. I know we are in the modes of preparing our holiday makers. Yes, we understand the vaxxeds are home. The senior sixers have started their exams today, and they started on Friday with their briefing. Today they started their first papers. Yeah, we wish them all the best. The senior fours, majority are at home, and end of this week, probably all of them will be home. Senior P7, the senior ones to be, are also at home. Therefore, if you are a parent of P7 vaxxed, it is important that you listen to this. Or if you're a parent to a learner in senior 1, senior 2, or senior 3, it is also important that you pay attention to today's discussion, because it is very, very important and directed to you. Today, we are discussing what we call the comprehension as your parent, how you comprehend the learner's assessment, especially when we talk about the new lower secondary school curriculum or the competence-based curriculum. We all know, we have known that in February 2020, the government of Uganda under the Ministry of Education and Sports rolled out the lower secondary school curriculum, which is competence-based. It raised a lot of questions, a lot of issues. Now, as we were still thinking of how this will be possible, then there came an issue of assessment. I remember the first term, very many parents bitterly punished their children for getting 3 in a paper. How can you be in school for full time and you get 3 and you get 2? We didn't know what this meant, and up to now I believe very many parents don't know how this report looks like or should look like, especially the new parents. It is the reason we are here today. We have a team. Now when I talk about a team, so we have technical people who are going to take us through the interpretation of this assessment, how it is, what we should expect as our learners come back home, and a lot more that is really important for you to understand. With us, I'll start with my immediate neighbor. You know, it is a team. It is a house full of ladies and one gentleman. We have Mrs. Dora Badeche. You're most welcome. She's the deputy head teacher of Mengo Senior School. We are glad to have you this evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mukalazi. Good evening, our dear viewers.
And on the extreme left, we have Mrs. Agaba Monica. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, dear viewers. Thank you for being with us today.
I didn't want to say that when I have the 2 of you, then we have Mengo Senior School here.
No problem.
But we are proud of you. We are proud of the work you do. We are proud of the school. Thank you so much for protecting the image of Mengo Senior School.
Yes, it is the oldest school in
Of
Uganda since 1895.
Wow.
And we are still moving on.
Wow.
So we are also proud of it.
Wow.
Yes.
It's a pleasure. Now, I know we are talking to teachers. So we have teacher Dora, who is a teacher of biology and chemistry. Gone are the days when we never had science teachers who are female.
Yeah, there now.
But also, you're the people who share on the president's cake for scientists.
We thank God for it,
Sure.
but not for administrators at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is now a talk for another day. Then teacher Monica is a teacher of English language and literature. So we are discussing with teachers. They are going to tell us the technicalities in this assessment as teachers. So I'll start with teacher Dora, who is a teacher of chemistry and biology. Kindly take us through some of the concepts, if I may call them like that, or the competences that a learner is supposed to get at whichever level they are at. For example, if it is in senior 1, how many should they have taken in, absorbed senior 2 or senior 3? Why? Because I looked at a certain report and it was even giving specifics. For example, it had, I think, English, and then it had anti-corruption, then the competences they got in anti-corruption and all those technicalities. So when a parent gets this report, they might not understand, because we look at the other mind of ours where we know locomotion, you have these marks, this, you have this. So can you please take us through that?
Okay, thank you so much. As a student in senior 1, senior 2, senior 3 goes to school, they do a number of subjects which were reduced. Now they are fewer. And in each of these subjects, there is a syllabus book which the teacher uses in order to be guided as he or she facilitates this learner.
Okay.
And this syllabus book has got each term's program, and in each term's program there are themes. There are chapters which are supposed to be covered by this learner as they study, and that is on termly basis. And after every chapter, the learner is supposed to summarize it with what we call an activity of integration, because this chapter is composed of the learning outcomes. What we used to know as objectives, they are now learning outcomes. And in these learning outcomes, they are summarized at the end of the chapter, and the learner does an activity to see whether they really understood what was being discussed in class with the teacher.
Now that is interesting. Is this the same case? Is it the same case with English language, teacher Monica?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same case.
You know, I was interested when I looked at things like anti-corruption, things like pollution. I don't know which other modern technology. How is this related to language? Environment. How is this related to language?
Because language is an all-round subject. Yeah, it involves each and every other subject, and remember that we are looking at an all-round learner, and so all subjects have been definitely, they all mix, and English language takes up almost everything, because each and every subject is definitely, the assessment is always in English language, and so English has to be very broad for every subject in order for the learners to understand them better.
Now I get it, especially when I see this, because at first I was wondering, now modern technology was in CRE during our times, and then pollution was, I think, geography, and you know, now you see this in English language. It is very interesting. Now we look at the assessment, because teacher Dora has talked about an activity of integration. So is this activity of integration looked at as the main point of assessment? Or because I remember during our days where we had beginning of term, mid-term, end of term, but we used to also have weekly tests. So in those, because we are trying to now relate the old curriculum with the new curriculum, I look at a parent who went through the old curriculum and now they're trying to understand the new curriculum, which is new, like we call it, the new lower secondary school curriculum, which is, I think, in its third year now of rollout, because those in senior 3 will be the first candidates next year.
Yes.
Well, of these categories, I've talked about the beginning of term, mid-term, end of term, weekly tests. Where does the activity of integration fall?
Now, unlike the old curriculum, or what we call the current curriculum that is being phased out at O level, with the new curriculum, the first day the learner comes to school, assessment starts. And in the old curriculum, in some schools, you'd find that they begin maybe with the beginning of term examinations, and maybe some other schools, they just take some time to report to school because maybe teaching would not have started. But with this new curriculum, assessment begins on the first day of school. Why am I saying this? We have what we call the formative assessment. And this formative assessment is done by the teacher. It can be done by even the students themselves, the peers. They look at each other and then what they are doing, and they are able to assess. But mainly the teacher looks at what the student is doing. While he is facilitating the teaching process and learning process, he looks at what the student is doing. That is observes. He observes what the learner is doing. And as he observes, already he has a small notebook and notes what he observes about the learner. And also the teacher converses with the learner, and then the learner is able to communicate with the learner, and the learner is able to come up with a product. So from the first day of school, when the term begins, assessment begins already. So that is the formative assessment. And at the end of, for example, if the teacher is to report to the parent, there are a set of words which he or she can use to report to this parent, to show the parent that this learner has really taken in something, has achieved something during the process of learning. So this activity of integration, for it comes up to sum up what has been studied after a period of time as stated in the syllabus book. Once the teacher is teaching, is following the syllabus book, because there are a number of periods they are supposed to take while teaching that chapter, and then is able to assess the learner after that period in what we call an activity of integration, which sums up all the learning outcomes which were stated in that syllabus book. As the teacher was observing the learner, so now comes up with a scenario, and the learner is able to put down what they were able to observe.
Okay. There is something you say that a teacher comes up with a set of words or phrases which they can use as they're explaining to the parent probably the abilities of the learner. What are some of them? Because it is important that we share them, so that if a parent out there maybe comes across any of those, so they will know that they're now telling me about the progression of my child.
So as the learner is studying, of course it is not, he or she is not assessed in one area. There are many skills which this learner acquires, and it comes as far as even communication, how the learner is able to express themselves, how the learner is able to express he or herself in class can also be reported to the parent, because there can be this learner who is always to themselves. They are not able to express themselves to the others. So when they tell the parent that this learner maybe lacks collaboration with other learners, cannot easily express themselves with other learners, then you as a parent, you can also try to help this learner when you reach home. But also with this activity of integration, there are also identifiers that we use while we are reporting to the parent. Those are the ones you talked about, the 1, 2, and 3. And these identifiers have descriptors.
Actually, you're now going so technical when you talk about identifiers and descriptors. Yeah, we are going to get there. We are going to get there. We just want to first of all understand the concept in a lay perspective, if I can put it. But we are going to get there. Now, Teacher Monica, I look at the way we studied English, where they teach you, for instance, a teacher teaches you verbs. In isolation, maybe they teach you. How are then these concepts taught in class? Secondly, we had passages. Is it the case, or all that has been phased out? No more passages, no more, how are they called, parts of speech, no more those.
Thank you. Of course, everything, the syllabus is the same as the one in the old curriculum. However, this time it is learner-based, more learner-based. When you come to class as a teacher, for example, of English, you need to look at your learners and definitely allow them experience your class period. For example, if you come to a class, you introduce a scenario, and then the learners from that scenario will be the ones to discuss and then come up with the theme that you're looking at. For example, if you are looking at environment, can you bring out a scenario that shows that that brings out the learner's emotional ability to know that they must be the protectors of our environment, and they will start the discussions from there. And as they are discussing, you're looking at each individual's ability. Is he able to discuss with his friends, or is this one who remains definitely isolated as an individual? And if he remains isolated, what other ability does he have that can bring out what you're trying to teach? And at the end of it all, you don't become the teacher to them, but rather you allow them be the ones to bring out the topic, and then after giving them the topic, they be the ones to bring out, after giving them the scenario, everything, the objectives, even the learner's outcome, everything. Now it is solely the learners who are into the lesson. You as a teacher, you're only passing around guiding. And this also adds to what Madame said about learning looking at the different components in class, what a learner can achieve. As you're moving around, you have to make sure that you know your learners individual by individual. Is he very talkative in class? Is he able to express himself? There are learners who are not able to express themselves when you call upon them, but when they are seated with their friends, they can be able to express themselves and discuss different issues. So you know now your learner's weakness and how to help them. So you find that all the topics we have in different subjects are the same topics we had even before, but now they have been improved to make them more learner-based. And you as a teacher, you only come in to guide, and you only come in to know where the weaknesses of your learners are and their strength is, and thus develop a mechanism of helping them individually, so that you can even have what to report, because you must keep on recording each and every learner's abilities. This one is very competent, this one is very creative, can create an idea. For example, an environment, is he able to know that at least as a learner, what are those innovative skills that they are bringing out in that kind of lesson? You make it learner interactive. They interact, and from the interaction, you learn a lot about their competences and be able to help them and merge the lesson together with you, so that whatever outcomes, they can be able to broadly even help the whole society. Okay.
Wow, this is interesting. It is interesting when you explain it, and sometimes you're like, I wish I can set the time back so that I'm part of this curriculum. But nevertheless, there are still a lot of questions, especially when you talk about that, because there is now something called project work in this curriculum, and very many learners, especially in holidays, disturb their parents. Why? whatever they find, they want to collect all these plastic bottles and then come up with probably a chair or come up with this. And some parents find this a little disgusting. So how is this incorporated in this curriculum, Teacher Monica?
Thank you. Definitely, as parents, we must be proud that our learners can pick that and be able to make something out of it.
I think sometimes they complain because they don't see its value until when you explain it.
Until when you explain it. That also builds the communication gap. You should be able to talk to your child and know why they are doing this. Most of them, when you see him picking an interest in this, then you know my child is very creative, first of all, and even in future, they are going to remain creative. So we need to be able to break the communication gap. These children are very interesting, especially in the project works. They can be able to come up with different things that even you as an individual, as a parent, even us as teachers, you look at a child's innovation and you say, wow, even me, I may fail to make this, because you gave the learner the ability to continue and do different things. So as parents, we need to understand that we are in the new era. The 21st century learner is now different, and definitely he's a learner that you're going to be proud of, especially if you see him at home also wanting to be innovative in most of those things. I have a friend, they have to hide almost everything, including the phone. At least now the child is growing, and so his mind is also growing up. But before, he would pick almost everything. A radio, break it and decide to mend it. Then a phone, you'd find everything dismantled, and then he's creating them again. But the father learned that this is now an engineer, and so he's helping him to develop his engineering skills, and he's going to be a great engineer. He said that he's going even to create robots. So as parents, we need to understand that this new curriculum has come to help us learn even what we didn't know about our children, and be able to help them, move with them. So whatever you see them doing, instead of feeling disgusted, encourage them, even when you're seeing it as something like, you don't even understand it. Ask him why he's doing it, and he will take you through those steps. And after understanding him, you will appreciate that your child, even in future, when he gets a job or he becomes a job creator, he's going to be a very good one.
Is the project work different from the activity of integration?
Yes, very different.
But
because the activity of integration is, like Madame said, it is summarizing the chapter. If you had a chapter, for example, a theme, like I said, in environment and pollution, then you can come up with a question, a scenario question that looks at how, as a child, you can protect your environment, or you can reduce pollution in the country. You can create a debate, you can create something that can help them bring out their own ideas about how they can reduce pollution in the country. But when it comes to project work, and still maybe you have chosen that theme, they will go now and research about it and make it broad, and they produce a product this time. They produce a product. If, for example, you are looking at how you can save the environment, can plant trees, you can, if it is English, for example, they can decide to write poems of their own, create their own poems that is speaking against pollution. And so, or posters, and put those posters around the schools. So that one is very broad, and it comes, and you have to do it in a long time. However, the activity of integration comes after every end of a chapter. So if you have 3 chapters in a term, those are 3 activities of integration.
Okay. I know of one parent who has always been complaining when their child comes back to school. The child is in senior 1, but each time they come back to school, they pin everything on the wall. Slippers stop here. When you wake up, do this. That she says the entire house is messed up. when this girl is around. But now I know she's watching, so you know why your child does this. She's only practicing what she has learned, and that is evidence enough that your child is actually learning something at school. We are taking a short commercial break, and when we return, we are going to continue with now the assessment, because it is very, very important that we understand these things before we can get into beating our children when they come back for holidays.
Family Hour, empowering families one episode at a time. Together, we build strong, healthy, and thriving families with our daily dose of inspiration and expert insights on topics that matter, like education and career growth.
Education deals with the minds of our younger children.
We want to see all in schools.
Family health.
Well, the public is advised to follow the Ministry of Health guidelines.
Finance and wealth.
As the government, as the parliament, we can plug those gaps so that the money that we collect from the wananchi give value to the wananchi.
Leadership and governance.
Leadership, I think, requires unity, people being united to accomplish an objective.
Not forgetting parenting.
For those of us that have children, depending on the level of intimacy, I think it's important to show your children the type of relationship you have.
Catch more of this every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m.
Moses, Ramesses, you grew up together, close as brothers.
Remember their prophecy. Samson, chosen by the living God.
You dare to defy me? Let the furnace be heated sevenfold. Bind them and cast them into the fire.
It begins.
Take the ark!
For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes should not perish but have eternal life.
Because once Christ warns about something, it calls for attention as believers. When God warns us about something, it means that we are susceptible to it.
Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil.
This is the Family Hour, empowering families one episode at a time. Thank you so much, you who is still watching. Just in case you've just joined us, this is our second part of today's edition of the Family Hour. We are looking at the assessment in the new lower secondary school curriculum, or what is called the competence-based curriculum. With us is teacher Dora Bareche, who is the deputy head teacher of Mengo Senior School. But we also have teacher Monica Agaba, who is a teacher as well at Mengo Senior School, a teacher of English language and literature. We are discussing assessment, and before the break we had actually talked about things to do with activity of integration and project work. Teacher Dora, so what do you have to submit when it comes to project work?
Actually, project work is the most interesting part of this curriculum. Because with this project, it starts as if the child is collecting rubbish. But later, this student will keep adding on this project until they come up with something that is tangible, that can go on the market. It's like when you look at these toys that we import, they are projects of some students in some countries. So even us being a new curriculum, we shall keep moving slowly, but we shall reach. So as parents, we really need to support these learners. When you see them collecting whatever they are collecting, because we are supposed to use low-cost materials, they will come up with something, and later they will keep improving on it as they keep on progressing until they come up with something that they can put on the market. For example, there is a student whom I'm working with. She tells me she wants to develop a drug for cancer. You know, before you come up with a project, there must be a societal problem that you identify. And once you have identified this problem, then you try to find out what solution you're going to have. Because there are some skills, which we call the generic skills, that we give these learners, and these include creativity, innovation, all those ones. They come in to help the learner build the whole learner. So this child wants to develop this anti-cancer drug, and she's moving slowly. She's doing a lot of research, and now she knows which foods are anti-cancer. So I know by the time she finishes university, she will have this drug and it will be on the market. Because I'm always amazed at the knowledge that she is discussing with me, what she researched. And I'm sure that when she reaches senior 5, she will add on, because that's the chemistry they study, or the biology. And then by the time she finishes A-level, she has added on her knowledge as far as this drug is concerned. And when she goes to the university, it will be a great one, and it will be on the shelves, I'm so sure. So these learners have a lot of things in their heads which show that they are really creative and innovative. And as parents and guardians, we really need to ensure that we support these learners, because you never know. This, what he's molding as a box, an investor can come and look at it, and it's a great idea, because even the great innovators, they use some of those ideas to come up with something. So we should not underlook them at all. With these projects, we're really going very far.
Especially, you've said with these projects, we're really going very far. Now, there is something you had started on and I cut you short. That is now the assessment, because you've now talked about, you had talked about the identifier, then all those other assessment tools. Let us now discuss the assessment tools and how they should appear. Because I was in some meeting and a parent raised a concern. They say, I have two students. They're in the same class, but one comes, they have C1, C2, C3. I don't even know what the C is, but one will come with the C1 with marks, C2 with marks, and without marks for C3. But the other one will come with all the marks for the C. So the parent wanted to understand, what is this C representing, and what are these marks? Because when a parent sees 1 or 2 or 3, what does all this mean on a report?
Okay. We discussed about the chapters, the different chapters.
Yes.
Some books, some syllabus books may call them chapters, others may be topics. And they are different depending on the different subjects. So if it is chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, in math, in chemistry, it may be chapter 1 and chapter 2 only. So it's not a must that these they must have the same chapters in a term. There are even actually some other subjects like entrepreneurship, which I saw, they have even only one chapter in a term. So that one, you expect them to come up with one kind of assessment, one form of assessment, because they have done one activity of integration. But like math, there's some terms where they can even cover 5. So you find they have 5 chapters which they have assessed them in. So it depends on the subject.
Okay.
So their parents shouldn't worry. Maybe the only challenge comes where there is maybe a challenge in syllabus coverage. As you know that we are all learners of the new curriculum, somewhere, somehow, you may want to cover something, but you do not cover it because maybe the learning outcome came out broader than expected. So there you may not finish the chapter. But again, when you come back the next term, you'll be able to complete this chapter.
Okay.
Yes.
Now we get into the other terms of identifier, indicator, those things which we do not understand, we who are not actively into the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. When we are assessing this activity of integration, we use what we call the race. We look at what you have written, where race, it's an acronym, where R stands for relevancy. We look at what we've written, is it relevant? Then there you score there. It depends if they have maybe said all the points that you've written, if there are 5 points expected and all the 5 are relevant, there you score 3. Now that is the teacher who is marking. Then A stands for accuracy. These points that you have written, are they really accurate? If they are all accurate, again you get 3. That is when you have one basis of assessment. Then coherence. Are they really flowing as they should? There you again get 3. Then there's that exceptional learner who gives you extra information which you have not listed for, but it is very relevant. So when that one gives it, you give 1. So that learner will score a 10 out of 10. And this is what you convert now to 3. It should be out of 3. The identifier should be 3. That is the maximum. For example, if they score 10 out of 10, then times 3. If it is 9 out of 10 times 3, that is the mark that they will get, which will be range from 1 to 3. The one who has scored 3 has got the maximum. That one, it means that all the learning outcomes were achieved, and that is an exceptional learner when they have 3. But it doesn't mean that you mark out of 10. You may have different bases of assessment. It can even be out of 28, you continue. But now that we are learners of the new curriculum as well, we are advised that this to start with the 10. Then you can move on to the next one. You keep on increasing.
So meaning if someone has, if a student or a learner has 3 on their report, then it is equivalent to around 90 or 100 in this old curriculum.
At 100 actually.
Okay.
That means that they have achieved all the learning outcomes with ease. That is an exceptional learner.
Okay. What about the 2 and 1?
Now the 2, it is when most of the learning outcomes have been achieved. Not all of them, but most of the learning outcomes have been achieved, but they are enough for the overall achievement.
Then 1.
Then 1, so that 1 of 2 means that's the moderate learner. The other one is an exceptional learner. Then 1, it is a few of the learning outcomes achieved, not enough for the overall achievement. So that learner is supposed to go back for a remedial. As a teacher, when you see that your learner has achieved a few learning outcomes, then that's when the remedial lessons now come in, so that this learner is able to get at least most of the learning outcomes to move to another level. The learner has achieved, but a few of the learning outcomes are the ones which were achieved.
Okay. Wow. So this means in this curriculum, there is nothing like a learner having 0 on their report like it used to be in our days, where someone confidently gives you 0 out of 100. Okay.
Of course, that shows that as a teacher, you have not done your work well. By the time the learner gets 0, but at least what they have written could be relevant, but not accurate. It goes back to the race, the acronym RACE. It could be relevant, maybe not accurate. So you can't fail to get something there.
Okay. Well, Teacher Monica, looking at the assessment, so we've talked about the activity of integration. Now, where does the marks of the project work go? Is it even marked, or it is just there for a learner to practice and perfect, and then they use their skill in future?
No, actually, in all this assessment, project work is more valued than anything else because it is hands-on. And so it is marked independently, and even the ministry is so interested in it, and they go to different schools. They also evaluate after you as a teacher marking these learners. They also evaluate at the end of it all. When they are satisfied, then those marks are taken direct to the ministry. So it is even more valued than with these other competences and other assessments.
Okay. So in other words, these marks from the activity of integration that appear on a report are kept by the school, but the ones for the project are taken. Or even these ones are supposed to be incorporated somewhere.
Even these ones will be incorporated. A learner starts being assessed right from the first assessment in class. And so those marks are all combined in the end to give him his mark of 100.
And of course, per now, the UNEB is telling us, UNEB and then CDC are the ones who are in the middle of this. And they are telling us that project work should be out of 10. And these activities of integration also should be out of 10. So that is out of 20. In case they do not change, that means that they will take all that continuous assessment out of 20. Then the end of cycle will be out of 80. But of course, since it is a new curriculum, anything can change. But as per now, that's what we are going by. Whichever marks we get, we store.
What is end of cycle?
That is at the end of senior 4.
Okay.
At the end of senior 4, there is supposed to be end of cycle, the UNEB assessment. But even now, we do end of year assessment. That's the assessment we do, which is maybe similar to the one of end of cycle. It's supposed to be done at the end of the year. Like now, I'm sure most schools are doing end of year assessment.
How is this end of year different from end of term?
We no longer do end of term.
Hey.
No.
Yes, we no longer do end of term. Maybe some schools may do this end of term, just to make sure their children are alert in what they are doing, so that they do not forget everything. But for NCDC does not recommend end of term. You're supposed to study until the term ends. But of course, as you know, as our children, sometimes when you leave them at large, they can forget everything. They only concentrate on the chapter assessment, end of chapter assessment, and they forget what you did in chapter 1. So you do something to only test them. But what is recommended is end of year assessment.
Does this mean that in the end of cycle assessment, they will assess from the very first chapter in senior 1 up to the last chapter in senior 4?
Yes, they always have a blueprint. They know where to pick the questions, but students need to be ready and know that from the first chapter to the end, any question can come from there. So they need to be lifelong learners, like the new curriculum expects them to be. You don't read because you have maybe an activity of integration. Reading must be continuous. That's why we encourage even parents, if the child needs data, you buy it for them so that they are able to do research, so that learning is continuous. And as a parent, of course, I think it can be maybe a talk for another day, to even teach children how to use the phones and the computers correctly, to do research in the right way. And that's where we are moving to. And indeed, if we keep helping them to do the right things, you'll find that they are using the phones rightly. And with time, even in schools, they will be allowed freely, knowing that this child will not misuse the phone or the computer. They will use it to do research, and it will bring lifelong learning.
Okay. Wow. There is a lot to learn. There is a lot to learn. I'm now learning that there is end of cycle and end of year. That is something new. I'm learning now. So does this report look different? I mean, the end of year report, does it look different from the end of term report? Because like you told us that the end of term report has the marks that are gotten from the activities of integration. What about the end of year assessment report? How does it look like?
It also has the activities of integration that have been done, but also there is that end of year assessment, and that end of year is for placement purposes, because there's a parent who will see maybe the marks which the child has scored and say, here you really did not understand. I would wish that you go back to this class. The government wants everybody to move, but as a parent, or even you as a teacher, you might advise the child and you're like, with these marks, we may need to do better. So they are for placement purposes. When you look at the activities of integration, and now you come and look at the end of year assessment, then you're like, this child it would be better if they really had more remedials. So it is basically for placement purposes.
Okay. Teacher Monica, I'll get to you. We look at, I'm interested in English so much because the First Lady always says each time exams are released that learners crammed compositions. So, is there a room for rote learning in this curriculum? I look at a situation. Do they even have that creativity of writing compositions in this new curriculum, or that is going with the old curriculum?
No. Rote learning is not encouraged. Actually, it's not allowed. Not even being encouraged. So, you have to be creative all through. And so, compositions, learners are encouraged to write their own compositions on each and every topic.
Without a teacher's giving them a sample composition and then they copy from that.
You don't give them any sample composition. Remember, there is a collaboration between the learners. So you've been discussing together, they've been discussing, and even out of the discussions they present. So out of their presentations, they can be able to create their own compositions. I still dwell on environment so much. I love that topic. So you find that as they are discussing, they are discovering different ways of protecting our environment. They are discovering different ways of themselves being the leaders in this environmental degradation campaign. So if the learner creatively thinks, what do we do? For example, if I'm moving with my dad in the car and I buy meat on the street, where do I throw those meat sticks? Now you find the child looks at the father and is like, Dad, let's create a dustbin within our car. So as children, they are creating that. They are becoming very creative. And then they know that they have to have a dustbin in the car, throw whatever they throw there, then later they can go and discard it afterwards. Now, if it comes to the composition, the learner already knows what to write, because he's trying so hard to fight the vices that are coming against environment. So as a teacher, you have no role to play. The only role to play is to guide them when they are there still discussing.
Okay.
And that is the best part of it. Okay. Because they will come out with things that you as a teacher can even learn from. They'll come out, and then these are things that they are continuing with even in future. Even when they go for work, they will still be able to adapt to any environment. You're bringing out a child who knows exactly what to do when he is protecting something. And also, what I also briefly wanted to add about the parents. The parents, children will come after the project, and then they will tell you, we need money for project reports. And the parent will be like, I can't give you money for project report. I couldn't forget that. Parents, try to be there for your children, try to encourage them and try to support them financially when they ask for those reports. You have seen people who are in different offices, but they cannot be able to produce any report after a certain activity. And so we are encouraging these learners and developing that skill when they are still very young, so that even in future it becomes an easy job for them.
Is it the reason they are having, for example, letter writing or report writing in other subjects? You find someone letter writing in biology, you open a letter and then you find a digestive system in English, you find a letter in history. Is this the reason we are having all this?
Definitely, like Madame talked about different values, different generic skills. Creativity is one of them. And so creativity has come in English language, because these are things learners are used of doing. They write letters, they write compositions, and so creativity comes in biology. And they say, write a letter about maybe like a frog. And then there's a lot you're teaching there, but it's part of the generic skill, creativity and innovation.
Before I leave you, actually, what are your parting shots? Because when I come this way, we shall just close and go.
I'm encouraging parents to embrace this new curriculum, because you have seen the influx of unemployed people everywhere. Someone studies, even gets a first class in a certain field, but they can never get jobs. So the new curriculum has come to help these learners become all-round. Learners who can even get a white-collar job, but they are able to be innovative in their own way and create different businesses that can give them more income. Even when they are on job, they are hands-on. They are no longer people who are in white collar. They come in a suit, sit down. But you find that someone has a degree, but when it comes to work, he's as useless as maybe someone. The person who has never gone to school is even better than him. If you're in an office, for example, and you do not have an office messenger, can you be able, or you don't have an attendant, can you be able to clean your toilet in the office? Those are things that are multiple that we can do even when we are in high placed offices. Your hands should be on different other skills here and there, and you become all around, so that at the end of it all, the office will need you, not you needing it. And then we create more people who are job creators and not job seekers. We have had students, for example, in the entrepreneurship schemes. They are doing great. They are creating different businesses. We have had children in technical drawing, people who are in metalwork. And right now, there is a student out there who has a shop. He has opened up a shop for metalwork. And he works, he does windows, doors, and people are buying from him. The other day he told us that he received 1.5 from someone who ordered things from him. And he's a student in Form 6. So parents, embrace this. And when your learner comes with a report that does not show excellence, you realize that, look out, what other skills is he learning or she's learning from this? There are learners who come crying their hearts out. I have got a 1 in chemistry. My dad will kill me. The other day a girl came like that. And I comforted her. I told her, you can go back to your teacher if you're not satisfied, and he will help you do have a redo of this subject. However, you need to tell your dad that this is not the end. Moreover, you had performed well before. So parents, encourage these children. Even where you see them not satisfying you, you understand that there is a lot other things that they are learning from this. And this is not the end. They can work better. Be able to encourage them and be able to embrace this new curriculum, support them in any way they can, and they are going to surprise you and become children that you would even admire when they are not asking you for money after their graduation, because they can be able to gain it from what they are doing.
Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Monica. Teacher Dora, as we wind up this discussion, what are your parting shots?
When we are handling this curriculum, we know that we are bringing up a whole child, where in the past we used to only educate the head, and you'd find that the child leaves school when they are full of knowledge. But this time it is with together with the heart and the hand, so that we come up with a whole child who is balanced. And as parents and guardians, we need to support these children in whatever they are doing. We need to support them, because we never know what they will be in future. And we can also be instrumental as far as these projects are concerned, especially during the holiday. There is a lot of knowledge we can share with them, which is important even as they come back to class. Because whenever they report back, we ask them if there is something new that they did. So instead of complaining that the children are idle in the holidays, even you yourself, you can give them projects to do. We've talked so much about the environment, and we know that the trees are all going. So can there be alternative sources of fuel, for example, that this child can come up with to use at home? When you challenge them, they will surely come up with solutions. So as parents and guardians, let's support the learners. And as schools, we cannot do without you as parents. In order for this curriculum to succeed, we need the parent, the child, and the teacher at school to collaborate so that we can come up with something that is tangible.
Thank you so much, Teacher Dora. Thank you so much, Teacher Monica. And thank you so much, you, our viewer, all those who have been following us through our website, through YouTube, and all those that have been following through on the other platforms, our app, you who have kept the conversation on Twitter. Thank you so much. God bless you. This is Family Hour. We meet tomorrow as we discuss family health. God bless you and good night.